A school bully attacked a black maid, unaware she was raised by the Mafia boss. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to our main character. Emily Washington was no stranger to being overlooked. As a black maid working for a prestigious family in the city, she was used to being dismissed, to having her efforts go unnoticed. She'd come to accept it, even though it hurt sometimes. Today, however, was different. Emily walked through the crowded school hallway, the weight of her cleaning supplies bag slung over her shoulder, her mind on the tasks ahead. The school had hired her to clean the classrooms and hallways after hours, a humble job, but one that helped pay the bills. She walked with purpose, her head down, avoiding eye contact with the students. But that didn't stop the whispers, the giggles, and the snide remarks that followed her every step. "What's she even doing here?" someone sneered. "Probably just here to clean up after us." Emily's heart sank, but she kept walking, her expression neutral, determined not to let the words affect her. But then, as she passed a group of popular students, one of them, Jason Clark, a notorious school bully, stepped in front of her, blocking her path. "What's the maid doing here?" Jason jeered, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "Didn't they teach you to stay in the kitchen?" The laughter of his friends echoed through the hallway, and for a moment, Emily froze. Her stomach twisted as she fought to hold back tears. She wanted to walk away, to ignore them, but something in Jason's voice, in his cruel words, hit her harder than she expected. She looked down at the floor, hoping the moment would pass, but Jason wasn't done. He stepped closer, his grin widening. "Oh, what's the matter?" he taunted. "Did I hurt your feelings? Maybe you should go back to your place, cleaning up after us." Emily's hands clenched at her sides, the urge to lash out building inside her. But she didn't. She couldn't. Instead, she turned and walked away, her face burning with humiliation. Little did she know, she wasn't walking away from this alone. Vince Romano, the Mafia boss who had raised her like a daughter, had been watching from a distance, unseen by the students around him. He had always told her to stand tall, to never let anyone make her feel small. But today, Emily felt small. Vince's cold gaze followed her as she hurried away, his anger simmering beneath the surface. He wasn't just watching, he was calculating. Jason's cruel words hadn't gone unnoticed. As he walked past the group of students, his voice low but filled with authority, he spoke one word. "Enough." The students fell silent, and Jason, now realizing who was speaking, straightened up. Vincent's reputation preceded him, and Jason knew better than to cross him. Vince stepped forward, his presence commanding the attention of everyone in the hallway. He didn't need to say more. Jason's face paled as he realized what had just happened. Without another word, Vincent turned and walked away, leaving the stunned students behind. He was angry, but he wasn't done. As he watched Emily disappear around the corner, he vowed to make sure no one ever made her feel that way again. Vincent walked slowly through the hallway, his footsteps echoing as the students around him shrank back, instinctively sensing the shift in the atmosphere. He wasn't one to make a scene, but today, something inside him stirred in a way he hadn't expected. He had raised Emily as his own, watching her grow from the shy, humble girl who first entered his household into a young woman full of quiet strength. No one, not even a foolish teenager like Jason, would have the right to tear her down. He could feel his anger simmering, but he knew better than to act recklessly. He would deal with Jason later. For now, his focus was on Emily. Vincent spotted her near the school's back exit, her shoulders hunched, head down, walking quickly as if trying to disappear into the world around her. His heart ached for her. Emily had always been the one to put others before herself, always careful not to cause any trouble, even when it meant suffering in silence. But this was different. He couldn't stand by and let her face this alone. With a deep breath, Vincent approached her, his voice calm but firm. "Emily," he called gently. She froze, her body tensing as she turned slowly to face him. Her eyes were red, and she quickly wiped away a stray tear. "I'm fine," she said, forcing a smile, but her voice betrayed the hurt she was feeling. You don't need to worry about me. But Vincent wasn't convinced. He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming, and placed a hand on her shoulder. You're not fine, he said quietly. No one should ever treat you like that. Not here, not anywhere. Emily looked up at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and uncertainty. I don't want to cause any trouble, Mr. Romano, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. It's just a few words. I'll get over it. Vincent's jaw clenched, but he remained calm. It's not just a few words, Emily, he replied, his tone soft but unwavering. It's about respect, and no one, especially someone like Jason, has the right to take that away from you. He paused for a moment, searching her eyes. You are not alone in this. You never will be. Emily's breath caught in her throat, and for a moment, she simply stood there, letting his words sink in. She had always felt like an outsider, a worker in a world of power and wealth, but in that moment, she realized how deeply Vincent cared for her. He wasn't just her employer. He was the father she had never had, the protector she needed. Vincent took a step back, his gaze never leaving hers. Come with me, he said gently. We'll deal with this together. Emily hesitated for a moment, but the sincerity in his eyes pushed her to take that first step forward. Together, they walked through the hallways, Vincent's presence acting as a shield around her. As they passed through the entrance, Vincent spotted Jason lingering in the courtyard, his usual smug grin now replaced by a look of nervousness. The boy must have realized by now that his actions hadn't gone unnoticed. Vincent turned to Emily. Wait here, he said, his voice low but commanding. I'll take care of this. Emily watched as he walked towards Jason, his strides confident and purposeful. Jason's eyes widened in recognition, and for the first time, the bully looked unsure of himself. Vincent didn't waste any time. Jason, he called, his voice firm, but not raised. The boy turned, his face pale as Vincent came to stand in front of him. I heard what you did to Emily. Jason tried to mask his fear with a defiant look, but it was clear that he wasn't used to being confronted like this. I was just joking around, Jason stammered. I didn't mean anything by it. Vincent's gaze darkened. You didn't mean anything by it? Well, let me tell you something, Jason. When you attack someone, when you humiliate them in front of others, you're not just joking. You're showing who you really are. And I don't care for people like you. Jason opened his mouth to protest, but Vincent held up a hand, silencing him. I suggest you remember this moment the next time you think about bullying someone weaker than you, he continued. If I hear about you crossing that line again, I won't be so lenient. With that, Vincent turned and walked back to Emily, his presence like a wall of strength. He nodded to her with a reassuring smile as they made their way to the door. Jason stood there, stunned into silence, unable to say anything in response. As Vincent and Emily left the school, Emily felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She wasn't sure what the future held, but in that moment, she knew she wasn't alone. And for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she was worthy of respect. The days that followed were different for Emily. The weight of the humiliation she had felt seemed to lift, replaced by a sense of calm she hadn't known in a long time. Vincent's words had meant more to her than she could express. They weren't just words of comfort. They were a promise. A promise that she wouldn't have to face the world alone anymore. She had always carried the burden of being the help, the outsider, the one who didn't belong. But in Vincent's eyes, she saw something different. She saw respect. She saw value. She saw someone who truly cared. As the days passed, Vincent kept his word. He didn't just let things go back to normal. He made sure Jason never crossed paths with Emily again. The school, too, took notice of the situation. Though no one dared speak openly about what had happened, the atmosphere had shifted. The whispers that had once followed Emily now seemed to carry a different tone. People respected her now, or at the very least, they kept their distance. For Emily, that was progress. But the real change happened when she found herself sitting across from Vincent in his office, a room that once felt so intimidating, but now felt like home. Vincent had summoned her one evening after her shift, and though she had no idea what to expect, she knew it was important. Emily, he began, his voice steady but gentle. I've been thinking about your future. Emily blinked, unsure of what he meant. She had always known her place in the world. She was the maid, the worker, the one who cleaned up after everyone. My future? She asked, her voice small. Vincent nodded. You're capable of more than just cleaning. I've seen it in you. You're intelligent, resourceful, and you deserve more than a life of serving others. His words struck her like a lightning bolt. She had never allowed herself to dream of anything more. She had always resigned herself to the belief that this was her life, and she would never be more than what she was. But Vincent's faith in her stirred something deep inside her. What do you mean? Emily asked, her heart racing. Vincent leaned forward, his gaze unwavering. I want you to learn, he said. I want to help you achieve something bigger. You have the potential to do whatever you want, and I'm willing to help you get there. Emily's mind was spinning. What was he saying? Was this real? Could she really have a future beyond being a maid? She had never imagined such a possibility. Vincent smiled as he saw the doubt in her eyes. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but you're stronger than you think, Emily. I believe in you. The weight of his words settled on her shoulders, but this time, it didn't feel heavy. It felt like a gift, like a chance she had never thought she would have. Over the next few weeks, things began to change. Emily started spending time with Vincent, learning more about the world he lived in. He taught her how to manage money, how to navigate business meetings, how to speak with confidence. He even introduced her to some of his most trusted associates, showing her the ropes of running a business, albeit one with an edge to it. It was nothing like the world she had known, but Emily was learning fast. She was discovering a side of herself she had never known existed, someone who was capable of so much more than she had ever imagined. One evening, after a long day of learning, Emily found herself standing outside the mansion, looking at the city lights in the distance. For the first time, she didn't feel like an outsider. She felt like someone with a purpose, someone who was more than just a maid. And as she stood there, Vincent came up beside her. You're doing great, he said, his voice warm and encouraging. Emily turned to him, a smile tugging at her lips. Thank you, Vincent. I never thought I'd have a chance like this. Vincent's smile was soft, almost proud. You've earned it, Emily. You've always had it in you. You just needed someone to believe in you. Emily looked up at the stars, a feeling of hope rising in her chest. She didn't know where this path would take her, but for the first time, she felt ready to take the next step. With Vincent by her side, she was ready to face whatever the future held. As weeks turned into months, Emily's life continued to transform. She no longer felt like the invisible maid, cleaning up after everyone and staying out of sight. Instead, she found herself gaining confidence, not only in her abilities but in the way others began to see her. Her time with Vincent had taught her more than just business skills. It had given her a sense of belonging in a world that had always felt just out of reach. Vincent had kept his promise to her, showing her the ropes of managing both the family business and the intricate web of connections he had built over the years. He had introduced her to influential figures, not as a maid, but as a trusted associate. The transition wasn't easy. The world of business, especially the one Vincent operated in, was ruthless and complex. But Emily had learned quickly, asking questions, staying quiet when she needed to, and observing everything around her. The most surprising part was how she began to feel like she belonged. No longer the outsider, she was a part of something much bigger than herself. Yet, despite her growing role in Vincent's world, Emily had never forgotten the first lesson Vincent had taught her: respect. It was a concept that guided her actions in everything she did, from the way she handled herself in meetings to how she interacted with others. As the months went by, Vincent began to trust her more, offering her opportunities to step into leadership positions within the family business. Emily had risen through the ranks in ways she hadn't dreamed possible. One afternoon, as she sat in one of the family's luxurious offices, Vincent entered with a rare look of pride in his eyes. You've done well, Emily, he said, his voice filled with admiration. Better than I could have hoped for. She smiled, feeling the weight of his words settle in her chest. I've learned from the best, she replied humbly. Vincent chuckled softly. Don't sell yourself short. You've worked hard, and you've earned every bit of this. But despite all the progress Emily had made, something still bothered her. She had spent so much time trying to prove herself in Vincent's world, she had neglected to take a step back and think about what she truly wanted. She had built her life around the expectations of others, never really questioning where her path was taking her. It wasn't until one late evening, as she sat alone in her apartment, that the realization hit her. Emily had accomplished so much, but she wasn't sure if this was the life she wanted forever. She loved Vincent, respected him more than anyone she had ever known. But there was a part of her that wondered if her place in this world was just as much about him as it was about her own dreams. The next morning, Emily made up her mind. She knew she had to talk to Vincent about what she had been feeling. She needed to understand if this life was truly what she wanted, or if she was simply following a path that had been laid out for her by someone else. She found him in his office, looking over some documents. "Vincent," she began softly, unsure of how to approach the conversation. He looked up from his work, his expression neutral but attentive. "What's on your mind, Emily?" he asked, his voice calm. "I've been thinking a lot about my future," she said, sitting across from him. "I've learned so much from you, and I'm grateful for everything you've done. But I need to know if this life is truly what I want. I need to figure out who I am outside of your world." Vincent listened intently, his eyes searching her face as she spoke. "I understand," he said after a moment. "It's important to know what you want, not just what others want for you. Whatever path you choose, I'll support you." Emily felt a sense of relief wash over her. Vincent's response wasn't one of disappointment or control, but of understanding and encouragement. For the first time in a long while, Emily felt like she could make her own decisions, carve out her own future. And that future, she realized, didn't have to be tied to anyone else's expectations. It was hers to create. As she left Vincent's office that day, a sense of clarity washed over her. She didn't have all the answers, but she knew she was ready to take the next step, wherever that might lead. Weeks passed since Emily had made her decision to take control of her future. Vincent had kept his promise, offering his full support as she navigated this new chapter of her life. It wasn't easy for her to step out of the world Vincent had built for her, but slowly, she started carving out a path of her own. One afternoon, as she sat in the park near the mansion, Emily found herself reflecting on how much had changed since she first started working for Vincent. She had come so far, learning new skills, gaining confidence, and discovering a strength within herself that she hadn't known existed. But even with all the progress, she still felt a deep sense of uncertainty. What did she truly want for herself? The future felt like a vast unknown, and Emily was determined to face it head-on. As she walked back to the mansion that day, she made up her mind to talk to Vincent again. She had been grappling with the idea of leaving the family business behind, even though it had become a part of who she was. She had learned so much, but Emily couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that there was something more she was meant to do. When she arrived at Vincent's office, he was finishing up a meeting with his associates. As usual, he was calm, collected, and in control, but when he saw her standing at the door, he gave her a nod, signaling her to come in. "Emily, what's on your mind?" he asked, his voice as steady as ever. Emily hesitated for a moment, gathering her thoughts before speaking. "I've been thinking a lot about my future," she began. "About what I want, not just what others expect of me. I've learned so much from you, Vincent, but I feel like there's more I'm supposed to do. I don't know what that is yet, but I need to find it." Vincent listened carefully, his expression thoughtful. He knew Emily was a strong, capable woman, but he also understood that her journey was about more than just fitting into his world. He respected her for wanting to discover her own path, even if it meant stepping away from everything she had built with him. "I see," Vincent said after a pause. "You've grown a lot, Emily. I've seen the change in you, and I know you'll find your way. Whatever you decide, I'll always support you." His words were simple, yet they held so much meaning. Emily felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. She had come to rely on Vincent not only as her mentor, but as someone who truly believed in her. But now, she needed to believe in herself. "Thank you, Vincent," she replied softly. "I think I need some time to figure things out. I want to explore what else I'm capable of, but I'm not sure where to start." Vincent nodded, a small smile tugging at his lips. "Take all the time you need. You don't have to make any decisions right away. Just remember, the world is full of opportunities, and you've already proven that you can achieve anything you set your mind to." Emily left Vincent's office feeling a sense of relief. She didn't have all the answers, but for the first time in a long time, she felt free to explore her own future without fear. The pressure to meet others' expectations had always weighed on her, but now she knew that the only person she needed to answer to was herself. As she walked through the mansion's halls, Emily realized how far she had come. She was no longer the shy, uncertain girl who had started this journey. She was a woman who had taken control of her life and was ready to take on whatever came next. The future was still uncertain, but she knew one thing for sure. She was ready to face it on her own terms. It had been a few weeks since Emily had made the decision to explore a new path for herself. The weight of uncertainty had been replaced with a new sense of purpose, but it wasn't without its challenges. Vincent had given her the freedom to explore, and she had started to take small steps toward something new. Emily had always been content with her life before, living in the shadow of Vincent's world, but now, she was beginning to question what else she could achieve on her own. She spent her days meeting new people, networking, and learning about different industries, trying to find a path that resonated with her. It wasn't easy. There were moments when she felt overwhelmed by the unknown, unsure of where to go next. She often found herself sitting in the quiet of her apartment, lost in thought. Despite everything she had accomplished with Vincent's guidance, there was a lingering feeling that she hadn't yet found her true calling. One afternoon, while she was out for a walk to clear her mind, Emily received a call from an unexpected source. It was from a former colleague, someone who had worked with her in the past when she was still in the maid service. The woman's voice was familiar, and she sounded excited. "Emily, I know you've been trying to find your way, but I think I have something that might interest you," the voice said. "I've been working on a project, and we're looking for someone with your skills. It's a completely different direction, but I think it could be exactly what you're looking for." Emily's curiosity was piqued. She had never considered returning to the service industry, but there was something about the way her old colleague spoke that made her feel intrigued. "What kind of project?" she asked, her interest growing. "It's a community-focused initiative. We're working to build a new platform for people like us, those who have been overlooked and underappreciated. I know it's a big leap, but I think you'd be a perfect fit." The idea of creating something that empowered people who had been dismissed resonated deeply with Emily. It wasn't about serving others. It was about building something meaningful, something that could truly make a difference. The more she thought about it, the more excited she became. She had always wanted to help others, to lift them up, but she hadn't known how. This project, it seemed, could be her way of doing just that. After the call ended, Emily sat for a while, processing the conversation. The more she reflected, the more she realized that this was the direction she had been searching for. It felt right. It felt like the perfect opportunity to take all the skills she had learned from Vincent and apply them in a way that was authentic to who she was. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but it was a risk worth taking. The next day, Emily called her former colleague back and agreed to meet to learn more about the project. As she walked into the meeting, her heart raced with anticipation. For the first time in a long time, she felt excited about the future, about the possibilities that lay ahead. Emily listened intently as her colleague explained the vision of the project, and she could feel her passion growing with every word. This was it. This was what she had been searching for. It wasn't just a job or a business venture. It was a chance to create something that could change lives, starting with her own. After the meeting, Emily made the decision to join the project. It wasn't just about the money or the prestige. It was about making a difference. She was ready to step into a new chapter, one that was hers to write. As she left the meeting that day, Emily realized that she had found her true calling. She was no longer defined by the role she had played in Vincent's world or by the expectations of others. She was her own person, with her own dreams, and the future was now within her reach. Emily's first week on the new project was a whirlwind of activity. She was thrown into meetings, brainstorming sessions, and strategy discussions, all of which were entirely new to her. Despite the steep learning curve, she felt alive in a way she hadn't felt in years. This was different. She wasn't just working for someone else anymore. She was working for a cause, a vision that aligned with her own values. Her role was to help build a platform that would empower people who had been overlooked, just like she had once been. It wasn't glamorous work, and it wasn't easy, but it was meaningful. Emily spent long hours at the office, often staying late to finish her tasks. She was determined to prove to herself, and to others, that she belonged here. The sense of fulfillment she had been searching for began to take shape. One afternoon, as she sat in a cafe near the office, reviewing some documents, Emily's phone buzzed with a message from Vincent. She had spoken to him briefly the day before, letting him know she was starting this new venture. He had been supportive, though Emily could tell he was sad to see her go. She had been a part of his world for so long, and now she was stepping away to create her own path. The message was simple. How are things going? I'm proud of you. Emily smiled as she read the message. It meant more to her than he probably realized. She had always looked up to Vincent, admired his strength, his drive, and his unwavering belief in her. Even though she was forging her own path now, his support had never wavered. She quickly typed a response. It's going great, Vincent. Thank you for everything. I'm starting to feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. A moment later, the phone buzzed again. I'm glad to hear that. You've got this, Emily. Don't forget to take care of yourself, too. Emily put her phone down, taking a deep breath. It was the first time in a long while that she had truly felt like she was in control of her own life. As the days went on, Emily became more involved in the project. She was working with a team of passionate individuals, all dedicated to making a difference. They weren't just colleagues. They were allies in a shared mission. Emily found herself becoming a leader in her own right, offering insights, solutions, and encouragement to the team. One evening, as she was walking home from the office, she couldn't help but reflect on how far she had come. Just a year ago, she had been cleaning floors and staying in the background, living a life defined by others' expectations. Now, she was taking charge, not just of her career, but of her life. The future was still uncertain, but Emily wasn't afraid anymore. She had found her voice, and with it, the strength to shape her own destiny. As she reached her apartment, she felt a sense of pride wash over her. She had made it, not just to this moment, but to a place where she could finally say that she was living for herself. The journey ahead would undoubtedly be filled with challenges, but Emily knew she was ready. She had learned that she was capable of far more than she had ever imagined. And with the support of those who truly believed in her, like Vincent, there was nothing she couldn't do. Months had passed since Emily had started her new journey, and as time went on, her confidence grew even stronger. The project she had joined was progressing, and Emily found herself more and more involved in shaping its direction. She had become an integral part of the team, and her voice was heard in every meeting. She no longer felt like the quiet, reserved girl she once was. Emily had transformed into someone who was not afraid to speak her mind, offer ideas, and stand her ground. The work was challenging, but it was also rewarding. Every day, she saw the impact of their efforts, and the realization that she was part of something bigger than herself fueled her drive. But even with the success she was experiencing, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. As she sat at her desk one evening, reviewing some reports, she found herself reflecting on her journey so far. She had come so far, but she knew that she couldn't continue on this path forever. She had achieved so much, but she still hadn't figured out what she truly wanted in life beyond her work. She had become so focused on her career and her success that she hadn't taken the time to consider her personal life. It wasn't that she didn't enjoy her work. In fact, she loved it. But Emily couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that there was still a part of her that was yearning for something more. Something beyond work, beyond the success that she had achieved. Something that would give her life more balance. It wasn't. Until one evening, when she received an unexpected invitation, that Emily realized what had been missing. The invitation was from Vincent. It was a simple note that read, "I'd like to see you, Emily. We need to talk." Emily hadn't heard from Vincent in months. Since she had left his world, she hadn't had much contact with him outside of the occasional text. She felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as she read the message. She hadn't realized how much she missed him until that moment. Despite everything that had changed, despite the new direction her life had taken, Vincent was still a part of her story. She wasn't sure what he wanted to talk about, but she knew that whatever it was, it would be important. Emily arrived at Vincent's office the next evening, her heart pounding with anticipation. She had no idea what to expect, but she knew it would be a conversation that would shape the next chapter of her life. Vincent greeted her with his usual calm demeanor, but there was something different in his eyes. "Emily," he said, his voice warm but serious. "I've been watching you grow, and I'm proud of everything you've accomplished. You've done more than I could have ever hoped for." Emily smiled, grateful for his words. But there was a part of her that still wondered why he had called her here. "Thank you, Vincent. It means a lot to hear that from you." Vincent nodded, then his expression softened. "But I think you've been running on autopilot for too long. You've focused so much on your career that you've neglected the other parts of your life." You deserve more than just success, Emily. You deserve to be happy, to find the balance that you're looking for. Emily was taken aback by his words. She had never really stopped to think about it like that. She had always been so focused on proving herself, on building a future that she hadn't given herself the space to live. I don't know what I'm doing anymore, she confessed. I've worked so hard to get here, but I don't know what comes next. I don't know how to find that balance. Vincent stood up and walked over to her, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. You've already found it, Emily, he said, his voice reassuring. You just need to realize that. It's okay to take a step back. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just need to trust yourself and take things one step at a time. Emily's heart swelled with emotion. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she could breathe. She had spent so much of her life trying to live up to everyone else's expectations that she had forgotten how to live for herself. Vincent's words reminded her that it was okay to take a break, to stop and enjoy the journey instead of constantly chasing the next goal. As she left Vincent's office that evening, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. She didn't have all the answers, and she didn't need to. For the first time in a long time, Emily realized that the most important thing was to live in the moment and trust that everything would fall into place. The weeks that followed Vincent's conversation with Emily marked a new beginning for her. For the first time, she felt at peace with herself. No longer weighed down by the constant pressure to prove herself, she began to truly embrace her own journey. Work was still a priority, but it no longer defined her. Emily spent more time doing things for herself, taking walks in the park, visiting friends she had neglected, and even picking up old hobbies she had long forgotten. It felt like she was finally reconnecting with the part of herself she had pushed aside for so long. Her relationships with her colleagues grew stronger, and she even found herself mentoring some of the younger team members. The satisfaction of helping others, of guiding them as Vincent had once guided her, filled her with a sense of fulfillment she had never experienced. Emily's sense of purpose was now rooted in her ability to make a difference in the lives of others, not just her own success. Vincent had been right. She didn't need to have everything figured out. She just needed to trust the process and believe that each step she took would lead her to where she was meant to be. One evening, after a particularly productive day at work, Emily received a call from her former colleague who had introduced her to the community-focused project. The excitement in her voice was palpable. Emily, we've had a breakthrough, she said. We're getting so much attention from the right people. The platform is gaining traction, and we're starting to make the impact we set out to achieve. This is happening, and it's happening because of you. Emily felt a surge of pride and joy. I'm just one piece of the puzzle, she replied, her voice full of gratitude. But I'm so glad to be a part of it. We're creating something real, something that matters. As she hung up, Emily realized that she had found exactly what she had been searching for. She was part of something bigger than herself, something that would leave a lasting mark. In the past, she had been so focused on fitting into a mold, on succeeding by others' standards. But now, she had learned that success was about making a difference, about finding fulfillment in the work that brought her joy. The next morning, Emily arrived at the office with a sense of purpose she had never felt before. As she walked through the door, she noticed a new energy in the air. The team was buzzing with excitement, and there was a palpable sense of anticipation. The project was evolving into something even more powerful than they had imagined, and Emily was at the heart of it. Vincent had always told her that she was capable of more than she realized, and now she was seeing it for herself. She had become the person she once dreamed of being, a leader, a mentor, and an advocate for change. As the months continued to pass, Emily's impact grew. She continued to work with the team, helping guide the project to even greater success. She also took time to nurture her personal life, building relationships that brought her joy and fulfillment. She had finally found the balance she had been searching for. One evening, as she sat in her apartment, reflecting on how far she had come, Emily smiled. She was no longer the woman who had been defined by others' expectations. She was her own person, living life on her own terms. The road ahead was still unknown, but for the first time, Emily felt confident in her ability to navigate it. With the lessons she had learned, the relationships she had built, and the strength she had discovered within herself, she was ready for whatever came next. The future was hers to shape, and she was determined to make it. A future filled with purpose, passion, and the freedom to live authentically.